We're the young company, and there's 7 ladies, seven of us, and we've all just been like working together on an installation and an idea of the installation towards birth, and we've just along the way been learning a lot of information about birth. So it's actually been like a really great experience, yeah.
We did it by starting off having a conversation as a group about like our own thoughts on birth and what we had already experienced or not experienced with that, and then we listened to 7 different ladies' stories of who had gone through birth themselves and worked from that.
And what was it like listening to those stories?
I feel like it was quite surreal, only because me personally, I was well aware of birth, obviously, because I exist. But it's a totally different thing being aware of it happening in the world and then listening to someone's story and how it affected them and how it made them feel. So it was quite enlightening for me, and also very very touching. I think that would be the right word.
Yeah, moving, definitely.
Yeah.
And eye-opening to understand, I mean, all 7 women all had such different experiences, and I think that was what became very apparent, that birth isn't just the same for everyone, that even just in the city of Manchester itself, there's so many different ways that women experience birth, some being good, some being bad, some being unusual. But yeah, just I guess really interesting to understand that and learn more about it.
I think I just felt kind of like a bit awe-inspired by it all, because it's kind of the different challenges that they've had to face, but the way they just sort of got on with it. Like sometimes, like when you're listening to them, they just say like, "Oh, and this happened," and you're like, "Well, that's terrible. That must have been so difficult for you." But they're like, "But I passed through that and I moved on." It's just a huge amount of respect for them, I think.
Yeah. Like a resilience from them all to whatever happened.
I think it's interesting that there's a certain aspect of practicality in all of the stories, that although there are so many different things that are contributing to where they are now and what they have to deal with during their birth or afterwards, but there's a real sense of practicality, and that really kind of things that would make you smile or would be that real practical element.
They were all so sort of unexpected and unbelievable, and like you were saying, none of them were the same. They were all different. But they were all really positive at the end of their stories, and it was like, they've gone through all these challenges, but they had this joy in their life, which was quite inspirational, and it was really positive and quite empowering, really, listening to them coming out of all of the stories, hearing quite a similar thing.
So what were the key themes that came out of the stories for you?
There was a lot about communication and the lack of it, or the difficulty surrounding it. If you talk about birth as something that's taboo, you're not allowed to discuss it openly, and it seems, it's meant to be kind of hidden away. But I think after talking to the women, I wanted to go and ask my mum what happened, how was I brought into the world, and she was a bit like, okay, if we have to. I think communication and the ability to talk and open up.
And then how all the women communicated with professional bodies. For me, that there was often it was really interesting to think about how communication can break down, or how I feel like most of the women had that one professional person, whoever they were, that were their real cornerstone in the whole process. And then on the flip side, they had people who were kind of remained faceless and weren't supportive as the women kind of felt that they should be, and how they communicated with the people that were going to support them through the birth was really interesting.
And I think as well on the idea of communication, that I guess the challenges that came out of communication at the end of it, what seemed apparent to us all from all of the stories was that communication is so important, and that if that could be improved, and conversations with professionals and just between women themselves, if it wasn't a taboo as such in some situations as it is to talk about birth and to talk about the challenges and the difficulties, that if it was just an open conversation and communication was always there and always available, that perhaps the challenges and difficulties that the women faced wouldn't have happened, or would have been easier to get through, having known, you know, what to expect or what they were actually facing through going through the experience of birth.
I think that's why they were so like happy, and well, not happy, but they were kind of open about talking about it, because I kind of feel like if they had that person who had spoke to them about it before, then they would have had better knowledge going in. And I think it adds on as well to the kind of empowerment, because I feel like for a lot of women, it's something they went into not knowing what, especially the first time, not knowing what was going to happen, and coming out of it, regardless, they felt more empowered, because they're like, you know what, I did this. Well, do you know what I mean? I did this, and it's kind of, it's one of them things where it's learning on the job and it kind of thing. And I don't think it should be necessarily. We should talk about it more. We should be open to talk about it more, because now there's nothing. Now we're talking about it now, and there's nothing bad about it. It's actually good, because I'm learning. Like it's do you know what I mean? And that's all it is. It's just a conversation, and especially young women. I think more young women should be just given the space to just talk about it.
So how do you guys feel now about talking about birth?
I feel like it's just part of my everyday vocabulary now, whereas before it was something that you avoided, so you wouldn't make people feel uncomfortable. However, being able to just talk about it off the cuff and just chat, I think it's a really healthy thing, because it means that if birth can be spoken about so candidly, a lot of other things that we should be speaking about but don't can also be brought to the table as well. So it's like opening a floodgate with something so natural as birth makes you realise that other things that are natural as well can be spoken about too.
Yes, yeah, I agree. I think after this, the amount of times that, you know, I've not cornered people as such, but been like, so I learned about this woman's birth experience, and this happened, and this happened, and blah blah blah. This lady experienced this, and this lady experienced that. And I think because we've been listening to these stories over, you know, the past couple of months, and we've been talking about it so regularly, I've kind of become immune to the fact that some people aren't comfortable with that. And it's almost like surprising when you do try and tell people about these shocking or you know, really unexpected birth stories that we've heard, that they're like, oh, well, okay, why are you talking to me about this? And it's like, talk back to me, like, please be interested as well, because this is really important. And these stories weren't just for us to learn about, like, we want to share it. And I think this is maybe a start, and I think that's what's so important about this festival, that it is opening up the conversation and saying, quote, let's talk about it. And bringing people in, and it's not just between us, and that, you know, other people do need to learn and do need to be able to be happy to speak about it too.
Because I was saying like there's sometimes it feels as though like women who have been pregnant or who have had a birthing experience in some way have their kind of secret language that they know about. Like I want to know about that language as well, and you know what I mean. I shouldn't have to wait until I'm pregnant or until I give birth to know some of the words and some. And when they speak about it as well, they speak about it so comfortably. So I think we should too, kind of thing. Yeah.
I think what Nat was saying as well about when she was just speaking about it outside of this situation, and people are just like, oh dear God, no. But like being able to speak about it like that just makes other people realise they should just get over it and just talk about and say what's on their mind. So I think it's definitely something that's really important, and it's something that's really helpful for society as well.
It definitely kind of feels like it's it's allowed us to talk about it, because I think in society you kind of get drilled into, oh, you know, it's a taboo, you don't really talk about it, but it's like, no, yeah, we can talk about this, it's natural to talk about this, why don't we? And I think it's nice that we are able to have these conversations, it feels like a freedom, and then with us having these conversations, it might make other people want to have those conversations, so it feels like a nice starting point, like you were saying.
Just feel a bit more sort of clued up, like you're saying about like there being like a secret language. It feels like there's a club, and if you've been pregnant, you've had a baby, you understand everything. But like, just sort of by default, being a girl, you're already part of that club, really. Like, and there's stuff that I didn't know before this that I'm suddenly like, wait, my body can do that? I'm like, wait, what? Like, it's yeah.
There's been like so many things that we've all shared with each other that we've brought from our own experiences and our own research, like apart from the stories that we've read, that we've educated each other with as well, which I think has been really beautiful. So that is, and actually quite fun and funny. That's all places as well.
Then even then, there's women. I remember in the debate in the big, what wasn't the debate, it was the
Boarded exile panel discussion.
Yeah, the panel discussion. And the woman was saying like I'd been pregnant like twice, and there were still things I was finding out. There were still things that I didn't know, and do you know what I mean? It took me so long as well myself to kind of. So even when they are in that secret club, there's still things that like this, you know, I kind of not quite said, and yeah, that needs to be said.
I think after that panel discussion, the thing that I was thinking about most was power, and the man who was a real leading professional, he spoke about those people that aren't even allowed their first breath. They'll never have the power for their first breath, and then there are millions being born disempowered immediately. And I was thinking about how it's really empowering to talk with a group of women for a concentrated point of time, and I actually felt it was really interesting that in some ways I felt disempowered, because how can I help with this? But actually, you know, being in it, just allowing yourself to talk with people for a certain amount of time, that's really empowering. And people talk about our generation as this apathetic, so it's a real interesting play on your mind how you can have power to change things, and how something so small can make some kind of change.
Yeah. And not to say that we now know everything about birth, not to say that we are completely, you know, fully educated on it, obviously we're not, but I think it's just been so lovely to learn things like we were saying that prior to this we just really had, I guess, no idea about, and in that way, through education, be empowered, and then I guess that ties back to the whole communication. If it's there, you learn, you're empowered, you have conversations, and things start moving forward as they should be doing.
Something in that panel discussion as well was when they said, if you were born, these issues affect you. So it's kind of like everyone's affected by it, and yet people don't want to talk about it. It just seems so daft, so we should talk about it.
I think though as well, actually, looking back at it, there's kind of like, I know we've like spoke as well as women and everything, but how does this like affect the men?
Yeah, that's exactly.
Do you know what I mean? Like I know like this guy who just, his life just completely changed after he had his baby, and he just like even his face was just softer. Do you know what I mean? And I think it does also affect men, but sometimes it's like, sometimes they don't know as well what to do, and it is just good to just be open and just be able to talk about it, because there are some men now after they've had a baby who are just more open to talking about it, talking about changing diapers. So what, do you know what I mean? Like, why don't we just start inflicting that into their heads as well, like before they're hit with their first baby? Do you know what I mean? Like, and they're like, okay, cool, what do I do? And do you know what I mean? I know a lot of men are probably open to that.
I find that interesting as well, because I've had a few conversations with men about it, and they sort of shut off immediately because they have this whole, oh, it's a taboo that I speak to you about it because you're a woman. So yeah, I think it is interesting to then look at how men are affected by it as well, because it definitely
like have the same way we've had this growing experience. I'd love for there to just be like a panel of men just having the same experience and the same journey that we've gone through, just seeing what they come up with and how what they've been thinking that they never felt comfortable enough to voice out loud.
Something that quite a few of the women spoke about as well. They were saying that sometimes it's a common thing, sometimes it's not, that they have, that generally it's thought of as a women's issue, and a few of them I think said the man should be there, like he should see this, he should get a feeling of it as well.
Like it takes two to tango, in all honesty. So if you're gonna have fun in the beginning, you should see the prize at the end. To be perfectly honest, so I never understood that whole men outside of in the waiting room situation. Like, see what your sperm created, as well as a lady feeling for 9 months what her egg has created, because it's all part of like the whole experience of the whole unification of building the family unit. I would think it's that beginning 9 months, and how I don't know how involved, I guess, I don't know, but yeah, just playing with that idea.
I think it's the expectation things as well, because we spoke to we heard about a same-sex couple and their experience of then going in and everyone not really understanding and being like, well, where is the bloke in this situation? Like, I'm like, there isn't one right now. So,
but then even in the same sex pregnancy, they're both there from the very beginning, and they're both super involved. So it's not necessarily man woman; it's two people being fully immersed throughout the whole thing, and it's one person. Or one person. It doesn't necessarily have to be two people, because I was born, my mom's a single parent as well, and she was kick ass. But like, just being fully immersed in the process, whoever you choose to have involved in that process.
I think it's just not having, what's the word, preconceptions.
Yeah.
About how it should be.
Because there's so many different ways to do this.
I think another. I'm so sorry. I think another thing as well, like, was that another point that we might have like not moved away from, but like that whole idea of sometimes in some cultures women are just expected to just have a baby, like you're used or you are born to have a baby, and if sometimes it must just be a boy, or do you know what I mean? Like, there's levels of what you can do, and sometimes it's like if you don't do that you're less of a woman, but it shouldn't be like that. I think every woman should feel empowered regardless of whatever they choose, and it must be a choice. It must be a choice. The choice of how they do it as well. Like, it was talking about like different types of birth, private hospitals, and blah 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 blah. Women should be given that more choice.
But then the choice to not to as well. To just, if you don't think you're ready, if you have health issues, whatever the hell your reason is, if you just can't, then I don't think there should be this huge
attached to that.
Okay, so last question. What is the installation all about, and what do you hope the audiences will take away from it with them?
So the installation is a whole celebration of the information that we've gained and the information that we want people to go away with, as well as the feeling of just being able to talk about this rediscovered topic, because it's not a new thing. It's since time began, but we want people to be able to chat about it again and openly and shout it as much as they can.
I think it's about sharing the stories, and obviously there's so many stories out there, and these are just like a tiny perspective, but they're sort of so huge at the same time, and they need to be told. And I think if it encourages other people to start conversations, then that'll be something really important and really promising from it. And I think that feeling of empowerment as well, if we can kind of get the audiences to feel that, or even see some tiny amount of that in the stories that we've shared, it'll be a success, I think.
Yes, and through these 7 stories that we've heard, making it not just about these 7 women, but about the fact that this happens to every woman, or could happen to every woman, and that it's a universal thing, and that inviting people to celebrate the stories that we've heard from the 7 women from Manchester, to recognise that, yeah, we can, you know, it should always be celebrated, and no matter what. I think Kate mentioned earlier about, or maybe Abby, sorry, I don't know. Anyway, mentioned that at the end of their stories, no matter what hardship or challenges that they've been through, the sense of hope and the sense of empowerment and the sense of joy at the end, and that, you know, we've created life. These ladies have created life. This is what they've been through. This is their story. You know, let's be proud of it together, kind of thing.
Anything else to say?
It's just like a really big, amazing, wonderful thing that we're trying to like condense into just a tiny little moment that people can sort of recognise and go, yeah, that's important. And it happens every day, and it's a very normal thing, but it's special, and we shouldn't take it for granted. I think just feeling like we were saying about choice, but there's like an element of just not feeling like you have to face things by yourself. I think the idea of opening up the conversation, having communication and sharing, is that there's like, even if you are a single parent, you're like, you might think you're going through it alone, you can talk about it to people, and there will be people who have the same experiences as you, and you're not lost to it, if that makes any sense.
And just making sure that even if you've not given birth what the conventional way is, that it's not any more significant, and that it's still unique and it's still special anyway.
Thank you very much.